Marcus Johnson had built TechFlow solutions from nothing. 20 years ago, he started in his garage with just a laptop and a dream to revolutionize business software. Now, at 45, he stood as the CEO of a company worth over $50 million. But success had come with a price he was only beginning to understand. The morning of October 15th started like any other Tuesday at TechFlow's downtown headquarters. Marcus arrived at 6:30 a.m., 2 hours before most of his staff. He liked the quiet of the empty office, the way his footsteps echoed through the marble lobby. It gave him time to think, to plan, to prepare for whatever challenges the day might bring. But this Tuesday would be different from all the others. As Marcus settled into his corner office, he noticed something unusual in his email inbox. 3 separate messages from different clients, all saying essentially the same thing. They were concerned about delays in their projects, poor communication from the management team, and what one client called a complete breakdown in professional service. Marcus frowned as he read each message carefully. TechFlow had built its reputation on reliability and customer satisfaction. These complaints didn't match the glowing reports he'd been receiving from his management team every week. His phone buzzed with a text from Sarah Chen, his longtime friend and former business partner who now ran her own consulting firm. "Marcus, we need to talk urgently. Can you meet me for coffee before work? It's about your company." 20 minutes later, Marcus sat across from Sarah in a small cafe 3 blocks from his office. Sarah's face was serious as she slid a manila folder across the table. "I didn't want to do this over the phone," she said quietly. "But I think you need to see what's really happening at your company." Inside the folder were printed emails, financial documents, and what appeared to be internal communications between his management team members. As Marcus read through them, his coffee grew cold and his stomach grew heavy. The documents revealed a shocking truth. His vice president of operations, David Martinez, had been systematically overcharging clients and pocketing the difference. The head of sales, Jennifer Walsh, was deliberately sabotaging smaller accounts to focus only on the biggest deals that would boost her commission. Most disturbing of all, his chief financial officer, Robert Kim, had been manipulating financial reports to hide these problems from Marcus. "How did you get these?" Marcus asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "A former employee of yours reached out to me last month," Sarah explained. "She was afraid to come to you directly because she thought you might already know and approve of what was happening. She's been documenting everything for months." Marcus felt sick. The people he trusted most, the ones he'd promoted and given significant raises to, had been betraying not just him, but every client who trusted TechFlow. He thought about all the times he'd praised their work in company meetings, all the bonuses he'd approved based on their false reports. "There's more," Sarah said gently. "They've been bad-mouthing you to the staff, saying you're out of touch and that they're the ones really running the company. Some of your best employees are looking for other jobs because they think you don't care about the quality of work anymore." The drive back to his office felt like the longest 10 minutes of Marcus's life. He thought about his father, who had worked 3 jobs to put Marcus through college. He thought about his late wife, who had believed in his dream even when it seemed impossible. He thought about the employees who depended on TechFlow for their livelihoods, and the clients who trusted the company with their businesses. By the time Marcus reached his office building, he had made his decision. He walked straight to the conference room where his management team was already gathered for their weekly 9 a.m. meeting. David, Jennifer, and Robert were laughing about something as he entered. Their expressions changed immediately when they saw his face. "Good morning, everyone," Marcus said calmly as he took his seat at the head of the table. "Before we begin today's agenda, I need to step outside to make an important phone call. Please wait here. I'll be back in a few minutes, and we'll discuss some significant changes to how this company operates." The 3 managers exchanged glances but nodded. As Marcus walked toward the door, he could hear them already beginning to whisper among themselves. But Marcus didn't go to make a phone call. Instead, he walked to the HR department and asked Linda Morrison, his HR director, to join him in his office immediately. Linda had been with the company for 8 years and was one of the few people Marcus trusted completely. "Linda, I need you to help me with something very important," Marcus said as he closed his office door. "In about 10 minutes, I'm going to fire David, Jennifer, and Robert. I need you to be present as a witness, and I need you to have security ready to escort them out immediately afterward." Linda's eyes widened in shock. These were senior executives who seemed to have Marcus's complete confidence. "Sir, may I ask what happened?" Marcus showed her some of the documents Sarah had given him. Linda's expression grew more serious with each page she read. "I had no idea," she said softly, "but this explains some things that never made sense to me. Some of the financial discrepancies I've been asking Robert about. The way certain employees have seemed frustrated lately, even though our reports showed everything was going well. I need to clean house, Linda," Marcus said, "and I need to do it today, before any more damage is done to our clients or our reputation." Linda nodded. "I'll call security and have them stand by. Do you want me to prepare termination paperwork?" "Yes, but keep it simple. Termination for cause, effective immediately. No severance packages, no extended benefits. After what they've done, they're lucky I'm not pursuing criminal charges." As Marcus walked back toward the conference room, he could hear his management team's voices getting louder. Through the glass walls, he could see David gesturing emphatically, while Jennifer and Robert leaned in close, clearly engaged in an intense discussion. Marcus paused for a moment outside the conference room, his hand on the door handle. In a few minutes, he would confront the people who had betrayed his trust and damaged his company. It wouldn't be easy, but it was necessary. He thought about all the honest, hard-working employees who deserved better leadership. He thought about the clients who deserved honest service. Most of all, he thought about the company his father had helped him dream of building, a company built on integrity and excellence. Marcus straightened his shoulders, took a deep breath, and opened the conference room door. The conversation inside stopped immediately as all 3 managers turned to look at him. "Sorry to keep you waiting," Marcus said as he closed the door behind him. He remained standing instead of taking his usual seat. "Actually, I've changed my mind about that phone call. We need to talk right now." The tone of his voice made it clear that this would not be an ordinary meeting. David, Jennifer, and Robert suddenly looked very uncomfortable as Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out the folder Sarah had given him. "I think," Marcus said slowly, "it's time we had an honest conversation about what's really been happening at this company." The silence in the conference room was deafening. Marcus placed the folder on the polished table and watched as the color drained from David Martinez's face. Jennifer Walsh shifted uncomfortably in her chair, while Robert Kim's hands trembled slightly as he reached for his coffee cup. "Marcus, what's this about?" David asked, trying to maintain his usual confident tone. "We have the quarterly reports to review and the Peterson contract to discuss." Marcus opened the folder and spread several documents across the table. "Actually, David, I think we need to discuss these invoices first. Specifically, the ones where you charged Peterson Industries 40% more than our agreed rate and kept the difference for yourself." David's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. That's not... There must be some mistake." "The mistake," Marcus said calmly, "was thinking I would never find out." He turned to Jennifer. "And you, Jennifer, care to explain why you told the Morrison Group that our senior developers were too busy to handle their project when I specifically asked you to prioritize their account?" Jennifer's face flushed red. "The Morrison Group's project wasn't profitable enough. I was focusing our resources on bigger clients." "You were focusing on clients that would give you higher commissions," Marcus corrected. "Even though Morrison Group has been with us for 5 years and specifically requested to work with our team again." He turned to Robert, who was now visibly sweating despite the air conditioning. "And Robert, my trusted CFO, the man I put in charge of our financial integrity. Would you like to explain these expense reports that show our overhead costs mysteriously increasing every month while our actual expenses have remained the same?" Robert's voice came out as a whisper. "Marcus, I can explain everything." "I'm sure you can," Marcus said, "just like you explained away every discrepancy I asked you about over the past 6 months. Just like you assured me that our financial position was stronger than ever, while you were actually embezzling company funds." The room fell silent again. Marcus walked to the window and looked out at the city below. TechFlow's building sat in the heart of the business district, surrounded by other companies built on the dreams and hard work of entrepreneurs who believed in doing things the right way. "Do you know what hurts the most?" Marcus said, still facing the window. "It's not the money, though that certainly stings. It's not even the betrayal, though that cuts deep. It's the fact that you made me complicit in cheating our clients without my knowledge." He turned back to face them. "Mrs. Patterson from Patterson Logistics called me personally last month to thank me for the excellent work and fair pricing on her project. I felt proud. I thought my team was delivering exceptional value. Now I find out that David charged her 30% more than we quoted and told her it was a special discount I had personally approved." David started to speak, but Marcus held up his hand. "I'm not finished. Jennifer, do you remember the email you sent to our entire sales team last month? The one where you said, and I quote, 'Marcus is too focused on keeping small clients happy instead of growing the business'? The one where you encouraged them to prioritize real revenue over Marcus's feel-good relationship building?" Jennifer's eyes widened. She had no idea that email had made its way to Marcus. "And Robert," Marcus continued, "your creative accounting has put this company at risk of an IRS audit. Do you understand what that could do to our reputation? To our employees' job security? To the clients who trust us with their sensitive business data?" Marcus walked back to his chair but remained standing. "Here's what's going to happen. Linda Morrison from HR is going to join us in about 2 minutes. At that time, I'm going to formally terminate each of you for cause. Security will escort you to your offices to collect personal items only under supervision. Your company credit cards, phones, and laptops will remain here. Your access to all company systems has already been revoked." "Marcus, please," David said, finally finding his voice. "I know this looks bad, but we can fix this. We've been working so hard to grow the company." "Working hard to line your own pockets," Marcus interrupted. "David, in the past year alone, you've stolen over $80,000 from clients through false billing. Jennifer, your deliberate sabotage of smaller accounts has cost us at least 6 long-term clients who trusted us for years. Robert, your financial manipulations have put us at legal risk and damaged our cash flow." There was a soft knock on the conference room door. Linda Morrison entered with 2 security guards, both looking serious and professional. "Good morning," Linda said formally. "I understand we need to process some immediate terminations." Marcus nodded. "David Martinez, Jennifer Walsh, and Robert Kim are hereby terminated for cause, effective immediately. Please note in their files, breach of fiduciary duty, fraud, and violation of company ethics policies." David stood up abruptly, his chair rolling backward into the wall. "You can't do this! I have a contract! I have rights!" "Your contract," Linda said calmly, "includes a clause about termination for cause in cases of theft or fraud. Based on the evidence Mr. Johnson has shown me, the company is well within its rights to terminate you immediately without severance." Jennifer began to cry. "Marcus, I have a mortgage. I have kids in college. Please, can we work something out?" Marcus felt a pang of sympathy, but he remembered the clients who had been overcharged, the employees who had been demoralized by poor leadership, and the company culture that had been poisoned by dishonesty. Jennifer, you should have thought about your family before you decided to steal from our clients and sabotage our business relationships. I'm not responsible for the consequences of your choices. Robert hadn't said another word. He sat staring at the table, perhaps finally understanding that his years of careful manipulation had caught up with him. The security team will escort each of you to your offices individually, Linda explained. You'll have 15 minutes to collect personal items. No company documents, no client information, nothing related to ongoing projects. A security guard will be present the entire time. Marcus watched as David was escorted out first, still protesting his innocence and threatening legal action. Jennifer followed, her tears now flowing freely as she realized the full impact of what was happening. Robert went last, moving like a man in a daze. When the conference room was empty except for Marcus and Linda, the weight of what had just happened began to sink in. "Are you okay?" Linda asked gently. Marcus sat down heavily in his chair. "No, but I will be. The question is, will the company be okay? I just fired 3 senior executives in one day. We have client projects in progress, financial reports that need to be redone, and a staff that's going to be shocked and confused." Linda sat down across from him. "Marcus, from what I saw in those documents, you didn't have a choice. If this had continued much longer, the damage could have been irreversible. At least now you can start rebuilding on an honest foundation." Marcus nodded. "I need to call an emergency meeting with the remaining department heads, and I need to personally call every client these 3 have worked with recently to explain what happened and how we're going to make things right." "That's going to be a lot of difficult conversations," Linda warned. "Yes, it is. But they deserve the truth, and they deserve to know that this company stands behind its work, even when that means admitting our leadership failed them." As Linda left to begin processing the termination paperwork, Marcus remained alone in the conference room. He looked at the empty chairs where his former executives had sat just minutes before, people he had trusted, promoted, and considered friends. But he also thought about the honest employees who would still be here tomorrow, ready to rebuild and move forward. He thought about the clients who deserved better service and the company culture that could finally be restored to its original values. The hardest part was over. Now came the real work of putting TechFlow back together, piece by piece. By noon, news of the firings had spread throughout TechFlow's offices like wildfire. Marcus could see clusters of employees talking in hushed voices, their faces mixing confusion with concern. He knew he had to address everyone quickly before rumors and fear took hold. At 1 p.m., Marcus called an all-hands meeting in the main conference hall. Every employee who wasn't with a client was required to attend. As Marcus walked to the front of the room, he could feel dozens of pairs of eyes watching him, searching his face for clues about what had happened and what it meant for their jobs. "I know you've all heard by now that David Martinez, Jennifer Walsh, and Robert Kim are no longer with the company," Marcus began. "I want to be completely transparent with you about why this happened and what we're going to do moving forward." The room was absolutely silent. Marcus had never seen his usually energetic staff so focused and still. For several months, these 3 individuals have been engaging in activities that violated our company values, and more importantly, betrayed the trust our clients place in us. They were stealing from clients through false billing, deliberately damaging client relationships for personal gain, and manipulating our financial reports to hide their actions. A collective gasp went up from the audience. Several employees looked genuinely shocked, while others nodded as if pieces of a puzzle were finally fitting together. "I take full responsibility for not catching this sooner," Marcus continued. "As CEO, the buck stops with me. I trusted these people completely, and that trust blinded me to warning signs I should have seen." Maria Santos, a senior developer who had been with the company for 6 years, raised her hand. "Marcus, what does this mean for our current projects?" Some of us have been working on things that David and Jennifer were managing. That's a great question, Maria. Starting tomorrow, I'll be personally reviewing every active project to understand exactly where we stand. I'm also bringing in an external auditor to examine all of our financial records and client accounts. We're going to identify every client who was overcharged or poorly served, and we're going to make it right. Tom Rodriguez from the design team stood up. Are we going to lose our jobs? I mean, if the company is in financial trouble? Marcus had expected this question. Tom, I want to be honest with you. The actions of these three individuals have definitely hurt our financial position and our reputation. But TechFlow is not going out of business. We have strong client relationships, talented employees, and a solid foundation to build on. However, I can't promise there won't be any changes. We may need to restructure some departments and adjust some roles as we rebuild. Over the next hour, Marcus answered every question his employees had. He explained that he would be temporarily taking over the responsibilities of the fired executives while searching for replacements. He outlined his plan to personally contact every client to explain the situation and discuss how to move forward. Most importantly, he made a commitment that stunned everyone in the room. Effective immediately. I'm implementing a policy that I'm calling radical transparency, Marcus announced. Every employee will have access to information about how our company is performing. Monthly financial summaries, client satisfaction scores, project profitability reports, all of it. You'll know what I know. If we're going to rebuild this company's culture, we're going to do it together, with complete honesty. After the meeting, Marcus returned to his office to begin the most difficult task of the day, calling clients. His first call was to Patterson Logistics, where Mrs. Patterson had thanked him for the excellent work and fair pricing that had actually been fraudulent. Mrs. Patterson, this is Marcus Johnson from TechFlow. I need to discuss your recent project with us, and I'm afraid it's not good news. 20 minutes later. After explaining the situation and promising a full refund of the overcharges plus a 20% credit on future work, Mrs. Patterson surprised him. Mr. Johnson, I have to say, the fact that you're calling me personally to make this right tells me everything I need to know about your character. Yes, I'm disappointed that this happened, but I'm impressed by how you're handling it. Patterson Logistics will continue working with TechFlow. The next call to Morrison Group didn't go as well. They were furious about being dropped for a more profitable client and decided to end their relationship with TechFlow permanently. Marcus couldn't blame them. By the end of the week, Marcus had made 37 phone calls to clients. He lost 4 accounts permanently, but 28 clients chose to continue working with TechFlow after receiving full explanations and compensation for any overcharges. 5 clients actually increased their contracts, impressed by Marcus's honesty and commitment to making things right. The real challenge was rebuilding internally. Marcus promoted Maria Santos to interim vice president of operations, recognizing her technical expertise and the respect she commanded from her colleagues. He brought in Elena Vasquez, a former colleague with extensive sales experience, to rebuild the sales department with a focus on honest relationship building rather than commission-driven tactics. For the CFO position, Marcus hired an external candidate, Richard Thompson, whose first task was to implement the radical transparency policy. Every month, Richard presented financial information to all employees in terms they could understand, showing how their work contributed to the company's success or struggles. The changes weren't easy. Some employees struggled with the increased responsibility that came with transparency. Others left for competitors, uncomfortable with the new culture of accountability. But something remarkable began to happen. Within 3 months, TechFlow's client satisfaction scores reached the highest levels in the company's history. Employees began suggesting improvements to processes and identifying potential problems before they became serious issues. The sales team, now focused on building genuine relationships rather than maximizing commissions, started landing clients who were better fits for TechFlow's services. 1 year after the firings, Marcus stood in the same conference room where he had confronted his former executives. This time, he was meeting with his new leadership team to review the year's results. "Our revenue is down 12% from last year," Richard reported. "But our profit margins have actually improved by 8% because we've eliminated the waste and theft that was happening before." Elena added, "More importantly, our client retention rate has improved by 35%. We're building real partnerships instead of just chasing quick sales." Maria nodded. "And our employee satisfaction surveys show the highest scores we've ever recorded. People feel like they're part of something meaningful again." Marcus smiled as he looked around the table at his new team. These were people who shared his values, who understood that success meant more than just hitting financial targets. "You know what I've learned this year?" Marcus said. "Trust isn't something you can take for granted, even with people you've known for years. But when you build a culture based on honesty and transparency, trust becomes stronger than ever because everyone knows exactly where they stand." 6 months later, TechFlow received an award from the local business association for corporate integrity. Marcus accepted the award on behalf of his entire team, but he couldn't help thinking about the morning when Sarah Chen had shown him those documents in the coffee shop. That terrible day had ultimately saved his company. By facing the truth, no matter how painful, and taking decisive action to correct it, TechFlow had emerged stronger and more successful than ever. As Marcus looked out at his employees during the award ceremony, he saw people who were proud of where they worked and what they accomplished together. He saw a company culture built on the foundation it should have had from the beginning: honest work, fair dealing, and mutual respect. The betrayal of his former executives had nearly destroyed everything he had worked for. But in the end, it had forced him to build something even better than what came before. TechFlow wasn't just a successful company anymore. It was a company that everyone involved could be truly proud of. And that, Marcus realized, was worth more than all the profits that had been stolen, all the trust that had been broken, and all the difficult conversations he'd had to have along the way. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to a leader is to be forced to remember what leadership really means.